Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about the section formula for an internal division. For example, we have a line segment AB. The coordinates of A and B have been provided. We have to find the coordinates of a point P that would divide this line segment in m:n ratio. So again, let's first try to understand what's the deal here. We have been provided the two endpoints of a line segment, which are A and B. Coordinates of A have been provided. Also coordinates of B have been provided. Now we have to find the coordinates of a point P such that P would divide this line segment internally into two smaller segments whose length ratio would be m:n. So if we assume that the length of AP is m times k units and length of PB is n times k units, then you can clearly see that the ratio of AP to PB would be mk::nk. That would be m::n because k will be the common factor and it will cancel each other, and then we will be left with m::n. So the ratio of AP to PB would be m::n. And the task here is that we have to find the coordinates of P, the x coordinate and the y coordinate of P. That's what we have to find. That is the task. Now let's draw two little triangles here, and then we will be using the concept of similar triangle, and then we will come up with the theory. We will prove the theory, right? So we'll come up with a formula to find the value of x and y with the help of two similar triangles. So let me first draw the triangles. So here I have drawn two triangles, triangle APC. I am using dotted lines to highlight that this is the triangle we are talking about. So triangle APC and triangle PDB or PBD, right? You can call it triangle APC and triangle PBD. Now if you think about these two triangles, there is one interesting relation between these two triangles. Now let's do a little bit of angle analysis. Because we are on the rectangular coordinate system, which is the Cartesian coordinate system, there you see these angles right here. The angle ACP is a 90-degree angle, and similarly the angle PDB, that is also a right angle. I'm just highlighting with a quick little yellow rectangular shape there. So those two angles are right angles. That means these two triangles that I have drawn, they are actually right triangles, where the right angle is the angle C and for the other triangle is the angle D. They are the right angles. And then AP would be the hypotenuse and PB would be the hypotenuse of the smaller triangle, and then AC is one of the sides and the corresponding side is PD. Similarly, CP is the perpendicular side and there DB is also the corresponding perpendicular side. Now if you think about the angle PAC, right here, it is actually this PAC angle right here. If we call it alpha, this angle right here, the angle BPD will also be alpha. Why? Because if you think about the two lines here, like lines AC and PD, those are parallel lines, and that is how I have drawn this triangle, that from A to C, this AC line segment is actually parallel to x-axis. Similarly, PD line segment is parallel to x-axis, and also the CP line is parallel to y-axis and DB line is parallel to y-axis. So now if AC and PD, they are two parallel lines, and if we assume that BA is a transversal, then you can see the angle PAC and angle BPD, they are actually corresponding angles. So they will be equal. And if those two angles are equal, then obviously the two other angles, which is angle APC and angle PBD, APC and PBD, they will also be equal. That means we have two triangles here whose three corresponding angles, the three pairs of corresponding angles are equal. That means these two triangles are similar triangles. So I'm going to denote that right here with a red similarity sign. So I'm saying that these two triangles are similar triangles. Now if they are similar triangles, then we know that the ratio of the corresponding sides will be all equal. So from there, can we write it like this? AP divided by PB. So let's first write the hypotenuse. So we can say AP divided by PB. That ratio will be equal to the ratio of AC to PD. So AC divided by PD. And then that will also be equal to the ratio of PC divided by BD. Now if you are thinking where it came from, Actually, this is a property of similar triangles. I have created a separate video on this. Feel free to watch it, and I have provided the link in the description also. So for two similar triangles, the most important property there is that the corresponding sides will be in the same ratio. That means, like in this example, the ratio of the hypotenuse for both triangles, whatever is the ratio, it will be same as the ratio of one other side from both triangles, and that will also be again equal to the ratio of the two other sides, right? Now from here, let's see what we get. So I'm going to scroll down. Now I'm going to take the first two ratios and do some calculation here, right? So I'm going to take the first two ratios, which is AP divided by PB is equal to AC divided by PD. And let's see what we get from those two ratios, right? Now, so what is the size of AP? Well, AP is actually MK units. So I'm writing it right here, M times K units. And then what is the size of PB? PB is actually N times K, right? So that is equal to, what is the size of AC, the length of AC? Well, AC would be the distance between x and x sub 1. I mean the difference between x and x sub 1. So that would be x minus x sub 1. So that would be x minus x sub 1. And then divided by, what is the size of PD or the length of PD? Well, PD will be clearly the difference between x sub 2 and x. And that's what we arrive at, right? Now we are going to do cross multiplication and find the value of x from here. Now if you look at this little equation, the only unknown is x, because m is provided, k will disappear because they are in the numerator and the denominator. So both the k's will cancel each other. So now we are left with m n x sub 1 x sub 2. Those are all provided because in the question itself the values of m n x sub 1 and x sub 2, all of that will be provided. So we have to just find the value of the unknown x right here. So in this equation we have only one unknown and we are going to solve it by cross multiplication. So let's do that. So from here, let's now bring the x sub 2 minus x, which is currently in the denominator on the right hand side. Let's bring that to the left hand side, right? So then we will have m times x sub 2 minus x. And similarly, let's also bring the n, which is in the denominator on the left hand side. Let's bring that to the right hand side. So on the right hand side, we are going to have, we already have x minus x sub 1, and that will be times n. N will be multiplied on that side because it is in the denominator. Now when you bring it to the right hand side, when you do the transposition, it is going to look like this. From here, let's now remove the parenthesis and say, okay, m times x sub 2 minus m times x would be equal to n times x minus n times x sub 1. So from here we can say, okay, m times x sub 2 plus n times x sub 1 will be equal to n times x plus m times x. And from here we can say, then if we now exchange them between the two sides, so we can now say x times m plus n. So I'm assuming that all of this is on the left hand side. So x times m plus n will be equal to m times x sub 2 plus n times x sub 1. And from here we can say, okay, then x is equal to, if we divide both sides by m plus n, then we're going to get the value of x. So it will look like m times x sub 2 plus n times x sub 1 divided by m plus n, and that is the value of x. So we have already calculated the value of x. Now next we are going to calculate the value of y. Now to calculate the value of y, I am going to take these two ratios. Let me highlight it right here. I am going to highlight that in yellow. So I am going to take the relationship between this first ratio and the third ratio. So first one and the last one, right? Now if you think about it, so let's first write down what those two ratios are. AP divided by PB is equal to PC divided by BD. Now, what is AP? Well, we know AP is actually m times k. So the length of AP or the size of AP is m times k units, and then PD is n times k units, and that will be equal to, now PC, what is the length of PC? Well, if you look at the diagram here, the length of PC is actually, it will be the difference of y and y sub 1. So that will be y minus y sub 1, that will be the length of PC. And then if you think about the length of BD will be the difference, between y sub 2 and y, because this little length, you see this much height is y and then the total height is y sub 2, so that this little difference, the BD length, will be y sub 2 minus y. Now let's solve it. So from here, if we do cross multiplication, like exactly what we did previously to solve x, now we are going to solve y, and in this equation the only unknown is y, because y sub 1, y sub 2, m and n, all those values will be provided in the question. We just have to calculate the value of y, and also k right here, k will cancel each other because they are in the numerator and denominator, so they will cancel each other. Now from here, if we solve it, we are going to get m times, I am now going to bring the y sub 2 minus y to the left hand side, so m times y sub 2 minus y, and then that will be equal to already what we have on the right hand side. We have y minus y sub 1, and then I am bringing the n to the right hand side. And then from here, if we remove the parenthesis, then we are going to get m times y sub 2 minus m times y is equal to n times y minus n times y sub 1. And from here, let's keep all the y terms in one side. So we can say, okay, m times y sub 2 plus n times y sub 1. So I'm bringing this n times y sub 1 to the left hand side, and then on the right hand side we already have n times y, and then we are bringing the m times y onto the right hand side, so that will be plus m times y. And then if we solve a little further, from here we can say, okay, can we transpose them, can we just exchange their position? So then we can say, okay, y times m plus n, if you think about it, actually I can write it right here, so this is nothing but y times m plus n. And then if we say, okay, y times m plus n is actually equal to m times y sub 2 plus n times y sub 1, and from here we can say, okay, then y must be, if we divide both sides by m plus n, so we can say y must be m times y sub 2 plus n times y sub 1 divided by m plus n. And we have now calculated the value of y as well. So we were supposed to find the coordinates of P, which are x and y, and we have calculated the value. So here we can say, okay, then the coordinates of P would be like this. So here I am going to write it like this. So therefore coordinates of P are, now let's take an example and see if we can find the coordinates of P for an example. So suppose we have been given an example here. Let's say, suppose the coordinates of A, the two given points, meaning the end points of the line segment. So suppose the coordinates of A is 2, 3, and then coordinates of B, that is, suppose we have 10, 12, right? I'm just taking some arbitrary numbers here. And then we are asking to find the coordinates of P that would divide this line segment in, let's say, 3:2 ratio, which is actually, this is our m is to n ratio, right? So you see, this is our x sub 1, this is our x sub 1, and this is our y sub 1, and here this is our x sub 2, and this is our y sub 2, and this is our m, and this is our n. So this is that m is to n ratio. So now we have been provided the values of x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, and m and n, and we have to find out the value of the coordinates of P. If those are the information provided, then we can say x will be the x coordinate of P. X is actually the x coordinate of P, which is what we are supposed to calculate, and that will be equal to m times x sub 2 plus n times x sub 1 divided by m plus n. Now let's now put the values here. So m is actually 3, so it is actually 3 times x sub 2, which is 3 times 10, plus n times x sub 1, n is 2 in this case, and then 2 times x sub 1 is actually 2, and then divided by m plus n, which is 3 plus 2. And if we simplify this, this is going to be 30 plus 4 divided by 5, and that will be equal to 34 divided by 5. So that will be, you can keep it like this, or maybe you can write it as a mixed fraction here. So this should be 6 plus 4/5 of length, right? So this is the value of x. Now let's try to calculate the value of y. So we can say, okay, y would be equal to m times y sub 2 plus n times y sub 1 divided by m plus n. And now let's put the values. So m is 3, so that would be 3 times, what is y sub 2? Y sub 2 is 12, so 3 times 12, plus 2 times 2 is the n is 2, so 2 times y sub 1, which is 3, and then divided by m plus n, that would be 3 plus 2. And this is actually equal to 36 plus 6 divided by 5, and that will be equal to 42 divided by 5, and that will be equal to 8 plus 2/5. right? So we have found the values of x and y, and that's exactly what we are supposed to calculate. So the coordinates of P would be the x coordinate, which is 6 plus 4/5, and y coordinate is 8 plus 2/5. And then, whether they give you some negative positive combination of coordinates really does not matter. You are going to use it exactly the way it has been provided, right? If your x sub 1 is suppose -2, then while you are using that in the formula, you want to use the exact same -2 value. Don't mess with the sign, meaning do not miss the sign. Continue with the sign. Then finally, whatever sign it comes to, no problem, because your coordinates could be positive or negative or any combination of that, right? So this is one type of problem. Another type of problem could be, maybe they will provide you the coordinates of A and then coordinates of P, but you have to find the coordinates of B, So they will give you just one set of unknown that you have to calculate, which is again pretty easy to calculate. In that case, you will get two equations and then you just have to solve those equations to find the unknowns, right? But using this formula, you should be able to solve any of the set of unknown when the other two sets of information have been provided. I hope everything made sense so far. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.